Let's wait for the car to drive by. All right. Hey, this is Casey here. Welcome to Figure It Out Science. This will be the 5th episode, and you may notice that there's no video. That's because we're trying to do these more efficiently and actually have them come out in some sort of regular interval. There are 2 other episodes that were in the video model style but are unfinished, hence the reason for these audio ones. So yeah, it was me and Tom again. No guests, just talking TED Talk, talking whatever. And yeah, you can see these on YouTube and FIOScast.com, Figure It Out Science. That'll be it. I'll stop talking now, and I should say something funny. Wormwood documentarianistical cheeseburger. I don't know. That wasn't funny, but I said it. Now on with the show.
More than we need.
We are rolling.
All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna need to refill my beverage. That was probably the
We'll just pause it, I guess.
not the thing you wanted to hear right at that moment, huh?
This is all out of order because I know we recorded a couple that haven't gone out, and hopefully eventually will go out. But this will be our first audio podcast, and it'll probably be somewhere in the. I think this will probably end up being 5, though there are others. Chronologically earlier.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you were saying you wanted to talk about this week in science?
Let's talk about this week in science.
Okay.
So,
see, it's always theoretically great, it's like, we'll just do an audio one, that way we won't have to edit it, but then there'll be these long pauses in conversation that will require us to edit
so
it.
that'd be the great thing, is to do an audio one, but to have the video, so we can just like throw up a sign that says edit here.
Yeah.
You can write notes to yourself. That way, while you're watching it, you'll see the whiteboard just pop up, and when it just pops up, you'll be like, oh, something happened here,
All right.
As opposed to the rest of the time when nothing is happening.
Which will be the majority, like, now. So, no dead air. Let's just strive for no dead air. It'll be a practice in futility, hopefully not, but it'll be something.
No, I like that idea.
This is a delicious beverage that, would you call it Buttermaker?
It's a Buttermaker, yeah.
Describe the Buttermaker for the audience.
The Buttermaker is the drink that Buttermaker, the coach from Bad News Bears, makes in the opening scene of the 1970s version of Bad News Bears. He's drinking a beer, and he tosses an empty can in the back, and then he pops open another one, pours a little bit off the top, and pulls out a bottle of Jim Beam from his dashboard or glove compartment and fills up the beer and just keeps on going. It's a Buttermaker.
And you're drinking something similar, but it's
nuts. It's just
a mixture. Yeah.
It's rum. It's actually rum and water and grapefruit juice, because I'm that much of a wuss.
It's okay. We won't judge. It's a judgment-free zone.
No, it's because I actually, I like juice, but I like juice to be watered down, and I like rum, but I like rum with a little bit of.
Most juice I find highly sugared.
Ooh, excuse me.
And I
agree.
Yeah.
A little bit too sugary.
Yeah.
A little bit like just like a punch in the face with a sugar cube.
During Easter,
just like that Kool-Aid guy, the big fat pitcher, comes in and rapes your mouth.
Yes.
Just over and over with his sugary
Oh,
cock.
yeah. This Easter, I had more sugar than I normally intake. I was having some of that Martinelli stuff, and I felt like I was drinking wine with the adults, because I actually got a buzz. Like I got like a sugar insulin
high.
Yeah, I really did.
You can feel that. I was talking about.
It feels to me it feels like the same kind of shit. Like when I get high, like on weed or something. And I think that there's something to that, like some sort of for me at least a blood sugar kind of similarity.
Oh yeah, just like an insulin response that's just super powerful. I think I was talking to my mom about this. We went grocery shopping, and there's those cookies that are sugar cookies, and they have like the fluorescent colored frosting on them, the real artificial stuff. and how you can just, if you just eat one, like your eyes dilate and you can feel your body temperature rise and
you start sweating.
Yeah.
Your eyes dilate and you grow hair in strange places and
pretty much.
you howl at the moon. I think that's the normal.
Right. You wake up next to a dead body. You don't know how that happened.
That's unfortunate.
I mean, not me.
No. So, continue. Science.
So the number of genetic regions associated with breast, prostate, and ovarian cancer was doubled.
So, like the markers, or what? Like, can you expand on that a little bit? Or?
Not really.
No.
I got the headlines, and that's it.
You got the headlines. Well, yeah, that's interesting. But
what does that tell us?
How do you expand on something that you haven't read in detail? But that is.
I haven't, because I didn't read This Week in Science. I read Last Week in Science.
Well, there you go. Now you're tuning into Last Week in Science.
Last Week in Science. No.
Yeah. Anything that you've heard or watched or seen. Let me see. What was there?
That's pretty interesting, though. The number of. You're just gonna say edit, but you're never gonna catch that. You can't see it. You
but
like
it's a
scroll
callback.
through
It doesn't really matter. It's for humor. I wasn't serious.
People are gonna laugh at it.
No one's gonna listen to it anyway. So.
Right.
Well,
that's why people are gonna listen, because you're so self-effacing. Everyone hates us.
All the emo kids will. Oh, he hates himself too.
Emo kids, those aren't a thing anymore. Those went out with hipsters, and now hipsters are going out. So this has got to be. That's like two things ago.
You're being sarcastic or silly or something, right?
No.
There's nothing but hipsters. You walk outside, I trip over like 5 of them.
No, I don't see any hipsters anymore, really. Well, I don't know. Los Feliz, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Echo Park.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with hipsters. Why do people not like hipsters?
I think people don't like people that are trendy, and that's just the trend that we're finding ourselves in now.
Yeah, but I think it's a pretty neat trend. They're like into being happy. How is that bad? Maybe they're lazy, but fucking so is everybody else. Pick any other subculture, they're all lazy too. Does that mean? I mean you too, listener. I mean you, Jeff.
I don't know. I think it's a poser kind of situation, I guess. I'm not like, I could find myself actually falling into a lot of that. I think, being in the band and stuff like that and hanging out with Randy, I think there was definitely a kind of a lean towards the sort of like outlandish sort of hipstery outfit. And I think people.
Oh yeah, and that was way before the hipster era.
Yeah, I mean every class I think sort of teases the other one. It's like the hipsters make fun of the soccer moms, and the soccer moms make fun of the hipsters, and everyone's kind of in their own little tribe, and they're banding together against a common foe.
Against each other. That's the common foe.
Yeah.
Like, it's the opposite of everybody come love each other. It's like everybody just hate each other just a little bit.
Based on a dress code. Yeah.
Just on dress code, exactly. Yeah. Fuck those guys. They wear baggy jeans. They should die.
Well, yeah, I mean, you just picked a category of person that you probably actually should, No, never mind.
Really?
No,
I hope not.
I was going to make a joke, but it
sounded
didn't sound enough like a joke to...
Oh, God, that has happened to me so many times. Where you say a joke.
People don't laugh, and they go, you're a horrible person.
Where you just know, you fucked up the delivery. You're like, I fucking hate you. Go die. Whoa, shit, that sounded serious. I'm so sorry. That was supposed to be a joke.
Yeah.
Oh, and then you feel bad every time you see that person. Then you really start to hate them.
Sad.
Like it's their fault. Fuck you. You hate me. No, I'm just kidding. Just because I fucked up my joke.
That's okay. I'll love you anyway.
So why don't you, use that to pull up This Week in Science?
Yeah, that's I was trying to multitask. I was trying to keep the conversation going and also figure out why the computer wasn't turning on.
Well, you did it.
I did it, sort of.
Oh, the computer looks on to me. So
no dead air.
No dead air.
I'll just say it, and that'll be the thing that I'll say until someone says something interesting.
Well, I was gonna say, have you done any cool stuff with you got something going on down here?
I know. settle down.
Have you done any cool stuff with shooting or making music or?
I haven't really had.
projects?
Yeah, I've been just editing here and there.
What's going on with the other shows?
The Chumash Casinos and Purgatory. It's we're waiting for a call back from the people that run it, and
I meant our shows. What happened with Ian? We never even
Ian Barr.
Yeah.
Oh.
There's no edit to that, is there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you saw the last.
Yeah.
When Brett was over, when we did the last podcast,
Right.
was where it's at. I've been trying to do the Miss Gabby project, and a whole bunch of other little projects that I've been working on that I've been kind of procrastinating with, and finally kind of finishing. I still have I've had a whole bunch of like errors that I've had to it's like computers are constantly like a source of love and hate,
Oh yeah, I know.
and so it's like I get everything working, and then something goes wrong, and then I have to like spend a day or two on some forum, to figure out why such and such error came up, in Premiere or whatever
Right.
program. And so between and then I had, a lot of long boring things, hardware, software, just whatever issues that have delayed things, and got a little poor for a while, so I started a day job.
Yeah.
So,
No, I don't
just haven't
blame
had the time, but, I still working, still trying to catch up. I don't know if you want to.
Oh yeah, sure. I was just pulling stuff off Facebook, pretty much. Oh no.
Oh no.
It's because Facebook doesn't do that, right?
There's about 100 reasons why. There's a pop-up blocker. Also, there is. If you look down. Here, no, I'm sorry. I'll figure it out for you. I thought it was just working. I'm gonna pause.
Yeah, pause. I'm gonna go refill my beverage.
Okay, now we're going.
Awesome.
Okay, we're back.
We're back.
We're
We
back. in
just
action.
watched
2 TED Talks.
Brené Brown talking about shame and vulnerability.
Of
Which
2
was
episodes
awesome.
of Super Soul Sunday Oprah fame.
And we just watched
6 Sense.
Sixth Sense, which was shit.
Yeah, which was a kind of a
Rehashing of the Google goggles.
that and some other projection stuff, which was presented.
God,
in
and they were
earlier
just
talk.
like, they weren't even kissing his ass. They were like licking the
Yes, they
inside
were.
of his asshole. The tongue from the TED people was just like,
It was a fragrantly palpated tongue that they were using. It wasn't just any tongue.
no, it really wasn't. It was. They were like, God, what did he say? You were one of the 2 or 3 best inventors in the world. And it was like, really?
Because you took a mouse apart and
Yeah, like you did something that was rehashed sci-fi and made a functioning prototype that looked like a completely worthless device. Like, okay, great. No one will ever use that.
Yeah. Well, I think eventually they'll use some variation on it, and it shows that it is kind of neat that you can kind of take these things apart and build something out of it. But it was very kind of like Lego, like I don't know, it was very kind of like DIY, kind of like, oh, that was interesting, and until it becomes small, until it becomes stable, until it becomes more like a Google Goggles situation,
The wearable computer thing in general, I think, is not really where we're going. It's too easy to pull out your phone and use it. I mean, where's the real advantage to not
pull it out of here?
Yeah, to not have to go through the hassle of using your cell phone. Like, how hard is it to use your cell phone?
Well, if you're on a bike, there's a million and one situations. I've been listening to Twit a whole lot, and Brian, what's the guy's name? The guy with the spiky hair. Anyways,
Brian Cox?
No, the guy who's on Frame Rate and anyways, he brings up a point about like the biking and there's a myriad of situations where it would be more convenient not to have to
But if you're on your
hands-free
bike, you're not going to
situation.
be. It wasn't hands free. His device wasn't hands free. It was using your hands to
Yeah.
make gestures. You can't like. I guess if you're biking without your hands.
Okay,
which
yeah,
is-
I'm thinking of the Google goggles when I say something like that. But
I get the
the
augmented
wearable
reality.
thing. I mean, there's going to
I
be.
get the augmented reality Google goggles, especially for people who wear contacts, and when that gets integrated, that's going to be incredible. But for this technology with the, projecting. The
I don't think
screen
I think
onto a
it's gonna
piece of
be it's gonna
paper,
be like an amalgamation. It'll be something. They'll be using elements of that. It's gonna look very different. And I don't know. There'll be uses for stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe not on a day-to-day basis. Maybe in some sort of occupation or something. I don't know. It's fascinating to see where things are going and
I
people
can
doing
see that.
innovative things. But yeah, I mean, it in itself is not. I mean, it's cool to like kind of see where you can like. What was cool about it was like he was pinching things from pieces of paper and putting them onto the computer and kind of going back and forth. Obviously, it was one of these things where it was heavily edited and it was a perfect scenario and even when they were presenting it in a perfect scenario, it still looked kind of shaky and shitty, and it's got a long ways to go. But it's sort of fun to see its baby steps.
I
But
think
it
beyond
didn't-
heavily edited, I didn't even believe a lot of it.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was just like I didn't. It was demo footage that I think was more theoretical than
Yeah.
actual.
Yeah. No, I don't think anybody's going out to buy it right now. I don't think
No.
anybody's really investing in it.
So Nixon in '88, huh?
Yeah, tan, rested, and ready. 1988 Nixon. I found that there's a T-shirt that's been someone put into a frame and sold at a thrift store. I think it was more of like an estate sale situation. I think someone's whole life was put. It was interesting though. I thought I'd present it on my wall.
That's right. Nixon ran again, right? When he was after.
I don't actually know because he got. No, cause I don't. I think he ran I think he was like 5-year term or something like.
Well, he got elected twice. He was
got
one
elected-
of two
yeah, he-
presidents who got elected
He got elected.
in 50 states.
Yeah, he got elected, but
He
he didn't
won
serve
by
the
a
second.
landslide.
The second one he got kicked out. Obviously,
Well, he resigned.
he didn't. Yeah, he didn't make it through the
Yeah.
full.
I think it's interesting that I'm not trying to defend Nixon. He was a criminal, but I think it's interesting that we celebrate not FDR.
1, 2.
FDR is amazing.
I guess it was 3 years then,
in my
maybe?
opinion. But it's interesting that we celebrate JFK so much and demonize Nixon so much when the real like crux of the era was the Vietnam War,
Mhm.
and Nixon was the president that got us out, and JFK,
Was the one they got us in?
Yeah.
There was a podcast, I think it was like This American Life. I forget where it was from, but they were talking about how Nixon actually botched the whole Cuban Missile Crisis. That it was actually
JFK.
JFK botched it. It had nothing to do with what his policies were. He kind of aggravated the situation, but there was this whole underground, like, I wish I could remember the details, but it was like someone's cousin did all this underground sort of like, off the records negotiations that actually
ended up exacerbating the situation.
no. Well, yeah, he exacerbated the situation, but there was like an underground like sort
The
of
way I
communication
understand,
that went on between some other people that actually was what caused like the cessation of the turmoil. It wasn't what you saw in public. That actually caused.
the way I understand the whole crisis, the Cuban Missile Crisis, is that the Soviets, it was Khrushchev, right? Khrushchev and JFK at the time? Or was it, I think it was it Khrushchev? I don't know. Anyways, the way I understand it, the Soviets wanted us to remove missiles from Turkey, and that delivering missiles to Cuba was all just a feint. Like, it was all just a...
We're gonna sound like a couple of idiots, but it wasn't Castro, or not Castro. It was Cuban. So
well,
it was,
Castro, yeah, no. But I mean, the Soviets were the ones putting missiles
it was a Soviet.
Cuba.
Yeah.
They were going to put a base in Cuba the way we put bases in You know, like we have bases in Korea,
Yeah,
Japan,
we did
Kuwait,
some aerial photography, and
Germany.
we found stuff. We found
Right, but
missiles
the
and-
whole point was that the Soviets wanted us to. They wanted a bargaining chip. You know, they wanted to put a missile base in Cuba, so that they could say, "Hey, we'll get rid of the missiles in Cuba, which are right next to the United States, if you get rid of the missiles in Turkey, which are right next to the Soviet Union." And we were like, "No, fuck you."
Yeah, I mean, after
that was it.
I have absolutely no sympathy for the United States after going through like all the zeitgeist and the Confessions of an Economic Hitman and all those things. You know, it's like
You know, the thing is, I think running a nation is a dirty business. You know, and
I don't think it has to be. I don't think
it does.
I think you can name a handful of nations that aren't necessarily trying to destroy third world countries, like, you know, for resources. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is the thing. We really want our leaders to do that. We really want gas.
We want cheap things, you know, and we don't. But I think if we know where it's coming from, the whole blood diamonds being an exaggeration of the point to prove the point, you know what I mean? Like, people don't want people to suffer for the things that I think we would pay more for things, you know, gladly, if one, we knew why we're paying for it more, and knew, second, that it was going to the things that it was supposed to go to.
But I think our nation has two like big opposite sort of waves,
diametrically opposed.
Yeah, interest, if you will. I know that sounds
interests.
Okay, so, you know, we were founded as this sort
Manifest destiny.
Well, no, yeah, as this sort of merchant run. Sorry, I just lost my power here.
You have the power.
Damn it. We were founded by the merchant class seeking to
non-limitations of profitability.
Yeah, exactly, to increase its profits in the colonies. You know, the 55 members of the Continental Congress were all the wealthiest colonists. They were all the
J.P. Morgans of
the Wall Streeters of their era.
Yeah.
You know, and they set up America to support the Wall Streeters of their era, you know. And over time, we've expanded democracy, expanded the electorate, and we've improved as a society. But at the same time, we've expanded the layer below the people who are participating, of just people who are just not interested, who are content, and not lower classes, just anyone who is uninterested and who is unmotivated to participate. You know, people who are content to go through their daily lives without caring.
I can't help but feel like that's like a calculated situation when it comes to the inability or lack of desire to fund like public education as a means of.
Oh, I think it does. It is connected to our public education system, but I think there's those two forces of every time America started out as a small group of people who wanted to enforce their will on society, and they've expanded to include more people who want to enforce their will on society, and every time they expand, America's gotten better. But at the same time, they've also expanded this group of people who they don't really care. You know, they're not going to vote, they're not going to pay attention, they don't really care. You know, and those people who don't really care, they still want things like cheap gas, cheap merchandise, and access to as much as they possibly can have, as far as like emergency services, infrastructure, you know, those kind of things. And they're not engaged in a way that prevents this other group of people who want to impose their will on the world. They're the one side of people who are not.
A couple of educated people came over here. They knew what they wanted. They took them. They had the motivation. They had the means. They had the intelligence, and the J.P. Morgans and all these people, and they took until they didn't really need to take anymore, and they set up situations to prevent them from being, taxed or whatever it was, at the time. And most people just want to survive, and their offspring, they end up becoming the aristocracy, and they just grow and grow and grow. And I don't know if it was at some stages along the lines, there's probably been some, there's always a disdain for the lower class kind of situations, and separation of the unwashed masses, and we eventually become where we are now.
Yeah, and I think the lower classes have been not completely enfranchised.
Disenfranchised.
Well, they're less and less disenfranchised. They're more enfranchised, I think, throughout American history. But there's still room to go in that. But that
wasn't there a TED Talk that said there was like more slavery now globally than ever before? I mean, if you believe anything about the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and like every time we put an embassy out, or anything like that, ultimately what we're doing is trying to dig our hooks into like a place that has resources and things that we can capitalize on.
Right. And I think that there are people who, the more you become engaged in the political realities of America, the dirtier it gets.
Mm-hmm.
That it is us versus them, in a way that it's America versus everyone else. And that there are people who are totally disengaged who don't want to see the world suffer, but they know the more they get engaged, the more they have to come to terms with the fact that their lifestyle would change if they
were active
if they were active in alleviating the suffering of people outside of our nation.
After listening to This American Life about the all these school shootings and all this, like they put money. I think I asked you, or I asked someone recently, like, I think I asked Dana, like, what do you think would happen if you just flooded a bunch of money into these public schools? Would it make any difference? He said no, but I think so. There was This American Life, and they were talking about a couple like Chicago schools and whatnot, and there are some schools where they have thrown millions of dollars into these places, and in places where the communities are shit, where people are getting shot left and right. So it's not just like throwing money at like rich people or whatever. But I long story short, I felt like what I really got out of all these interviews was ultimately what the issue is is caring. And to these kids, like they have so many situations where like there's no money, there's no funding from the government, there's no this, there's no that, and the only thing that ever that prevents them from going down like a horrible path is a handful of people who show that they care, or if the government or the powers that be fund something, or provide the tools that they need, they go, oh, I'm worth something, because people are paying attention, people are funding me, people are giving me money, people care. Mm-hmm. And if you imagine how you'd be if you felt like no one around you cared about your life, if you existed, you'd take what you get. And the Venus Project, I think some of their principles, like, where most crime comes from is from the have-nots,
well, definitely.
Yeah.
You can't be affected by the idea that no one cares.
Yeah.
You can't end up not feeling that somehow.
Yeah, and Mitt Romney saying things like, the 47%, I don't understand, I don't care, they're not going to vote, they just want, it
was a bizarre number to throw out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be some number of people that don't give a shit, and that are leeching off the system, but it can't be half. You know what I mean? It just can't be half. It's absurd.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a sort of leech on the system. I exist entirely on welfare. But it's not like I don't care. I wouldn't consider myself part of his 47%. My welfare is the GI Bill. I earned it.
Mhm.
But then when you look at like unemployment insurance, when you're on unemployment insurance, you earn that too. You pay into it. If you're on Social Security, you pay into it.
Yeah.
All our forms of welfare, except for maybe WIC, you pay into it. But then if that's the one you isolate and say like those people are deadbeats, then really you're just saying like, what, like infants are deadbeats? I mean, come on.
This American Life had a really interesting, another show that they did was about disability, and how there's a guy he worked up in Reading. Was it Reading? No, it was where Kurt Cobain, Aberdeen, I think it was.
Aberdeen, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and like after the mills shut down or whatever, and this guy was, he wanted to go into the factories, but they just didn't exist anymore. So he got put into one of these governmental situations where they were like, okay, we're gonna re-educate you, maybe you'll become a forest,
a lumberjack, forestry service person.
Yeah, something like that. Like a Yogi Bear situation, like a ranger. What is it?
A Yogi Bear. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, you could be Yogi Bear.
You walk out. You walk out on.
Yogi Bear. Yeah. What's the?
Steal some picnic
baskets. What was the ranger's name?
Fuck, I don't remember.
Anyways,
I know what you're talking about.
The joke has left the building. Anyway, so this guy wanted to, he wanted to go back to work. He didn't want to go on disability. He didn't want to go on this, that, and the other thing. He didn't want to go on welfare. And then one of these rogue people that were running, he was one of the educators. He was like, look, listen, you're never gonna get a job. We're just hiding you. And what the understanding is that the unemployment rate, people on disability don't factor in on the unemployment rate. So they put you into disability, and now you don't show poorly on our statistics.
Right.
And
if he gets added into a job, then he might go back into the statistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so and people that get stuck in welfare or on disability, it's like, they actually get a little bit more. They get a little bit of, because like on welfare you're not going to necessarily get the health care that you might get with the disability, and but it locks you into a poverty situation where you can't make any more. And there's a lot of kids, I guess, that are on disability. A kid doesn't necessarily, it's not a physical thing necessarily. It could be a learning disability that still gives them SSI or whatever. And he can, but the scary thing is, a lot of these families that, they don't want to go in to get a job or whatever, because that infringes on their ability to get these welfare things. And so it scares them, because they got this stable check. And
yeah. That can be scary. I mean, if you're getting a stable check, why would you risk not getting a stable check, It's pure economics. It doesn't make sense to go risk a steady income on something that might vanish. It used to be that you got a job and you could stay in that job for 20, 30 years and retire, and now they think
just put it all on black, put it on the stock market.
Well, no, I mean, it's I read something that said the typical American will have 7 careers in their lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to have 7 careers or one steady SSI check, what are you going to choose? That one career that's coming up, that might not be it. That might not be the one that lets you sail through to the end. I don't know. That's kind of depressing.
It is. Shame.
Yeah, we watched Shame. That was interesting.
What did you think of that?
I liked it. It seemed it was really validating, which I always like. It wasn't particularly scientific, It wasn't like...
She didn't put in a lot of her studies, but I mean...
She said if you put shame in a petri dish, and when she said that, I went, well, that's not possible. You're a scientist, right?
You're a literalist, you.
Well, still, I mean, I don't understand that's a metaphor, but the whole thing was sort of like, you're all great people, I mean, didn't you feel like you were validated by that talk? Didn't you feel like her research made your life?
Well, I think, I mean, we all have our other issues, but I think when you think about, well, like, this kind of goes back a little bit to the sort of the poverty issue. It's like, why do people?
I'm not saying she's wrong.
Yeah. Why do people do things that are why do people do criminal activities? It's like, I guess there's definitely the sociopaths.
I can tell you why I do criminal activities. They're just so darn fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
can't steal the punchline like that. That's just a dick
like
move.
why do you have sex like in a sort of public-esque environment, because of the fear of getting caught, it heightens the exhilaration.
I've only ever done that one time.
Yeah, but you did it, and
I wasn't actually interested in it at all. I was really in love with this girl, and she wanted to do it, and I was like, fine, fuck it, let's go do it right now. Let's just go do it.
Yeah.
And so we were at we were on a college campus, and I just found a stairwell, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna fuck you in here. That's great, know. And we did all kinds of. Actually, we did. Then we went skinny dipping, and I don't know. I think she just wanted to try different stuff, and I was like, I guess she just wasn't as into me as I was into her. She just wanted to do different stuff. And I was like, cool, whatever you want, that's fine, because I just want to be around you.
Yeah.
But I never really figured that one out, I wouldn't be that embarrassed to have people watch me have sex. The only people that would embarrass me is if my family found out, or if it embarrassed them. Like, it wouldn't even be bad if they found out. It'd just be bad if they were like...
At some point, you have to wonder, like, I mean, I guess there's, like I don't know, it seems like, I imagine, like, there's a Simpsons episode where, like, Homer and Marge, are, like, having sex in public, or, like, I think they go to, like,
They skinny dip at some point.
Yeah, they go to, like, a barn or something like that. I think it's, like, they're staying at someone's house or whatever, and they're like rekindling their marriage, and it seems very kind of quasi wholesome or something. But then I think of like the very damaged girl that I dated once, and I had sex in the backyard or whatever, and she wanted public situations too, but she she had issues. She had daddy issues. Her dad was dead. She had mommy issues and all kinds of, and at some point I wonder if there's some connection to like just like maybe you don't like yourself, and so you kind of think you're worthless or whatever, and you kind of want to get caught and like validate your shame or something, like when someone catches you. I don't know.
I know you're trying to bring us back to shame, but I think as soon as you said damaged girlfriend, I think, wow, you know what I realized? Maybe the reason I didn't care is because I actually did a lot of public sex stuff when I was in high school with my first girlfriend, because she would just let me. Yeah, and she was totally damaged, right? So when I was a sophomore in high school, like, God, we fucked in the racquetball courts.
I remember.
I had sex. I had sex during lunch.
Yeah.
In high school, you
That's
know what
awesome.
I mean? It was awesome, and like I just didn't care. I was like, yes, I get to.
I came very close to experiencing stuff with her as well. I know who you're talking about.
I think there's probably a long list of people.
Probably half of Lombok.
There weren't when I was with her.
Yeah, she was still young. She was still high school.
Yeah.
But,
maybe I hope I didn't mess her up any. I don't think I did. I think I was really nice to her.
Yeah.
I tried to be, but whenever she let me do anything, I did it.
Of course. You're a high school kid. I mean, what the hell?
Yeah. But maybe that was bad for 15-year-olds. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. It's like a symptom of some other issue.
I guess, though, that really...
I don't think it's necessarily cause. I mean, it can cause problems, I suppose. If you shame yourself or guilt yourself for the activities that you do.
But you just want to bring it back to shame.
Well, there's
guilt.
definitely. Well, no.
So
I think it's. Well, I think it's super fascinating, because I really do think that there's some. I think there's some very fundamental human characteristic. I don't know. I think it's very fundamental. I think it's very important.
I agree. I agreed with the it was just soft. It was just very soft. She was a scientist. She had a PhD. She presented a talk to intellectuals, and it was very soft. And I liked the talk, and it made me emotionally respond.
Yeah, there was
no science.
There was
at
not
all.
there was not very much in that the Oprah 2-part interview was far more in depth, and interesting and worth
She didn't
watching.
even say what an experiment was. Not one.
Yeah.
One of my favorite. Have you seen the talk on pain?
Well, I don't think so. Well, I mean, I've heard many lectures on pain, but maybe not the one you've heard.
Really? I've only actually heard one lecture, I think, on pain. There's also a lecture on TED on cognitive dissonance, and I think it's by the same dude.
That sounds familiar. I think I maybe saw that one.
I
saw, there was a talk on pain on the Brain Science podcast that was really fascinating about the different types of pain. There was there was a couple of different things that I hadn't actually heard of before. There's the normal kind of like pain that you get. There's like sensitization, desensitization, but then there was like nodes, and there was a lot of things that were kind of interesting that I can't go into very much detail because I was only just being introduced to.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I highly recommend Brain Science podcast to anybody who has a brain.
Both of those words are misspelled. Thankfully, there's Google. Do you remember, we were old enough that in high school and middle school there was a really pretty assertive insistence that we be able to spell things correctly.
And you just revolted?
Yeah, and I remember even when I was like 13 or 14, I was like, computers have a spell check, right? And that they're going to be everywhere by the time we are 30.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my teachers in general being like, no, that's not true. You're always going to be able to have to spell things. And they were wrong. I want every teacher to know you were fucking wrong.
Okay. You do need to learn to spell.
I know that was
for
awful.
A couple of reasons. One, the Pirate Bay. The Pirate Bay does not have a spell check.
But you put it in Google. I put every word in Google before I don't even have a spell check on my word processor. I just pull things out of my word processor.
People just judge you when you email.
Put them in my email.
Yeah. The real thing to do now is to have it spoken to you, because sometimes you lose a letter or something.
Oh, that's what I do too. Yeah, have it spoken back.
Yeah, speak
that's
it or
even
whatever.
Better.
Text to speech. I'm going to pause this and use the little girl's room.
Committed a heinous murder.
What are we talking about?
This show is a science show, right?